there's been a lot of hands-on with the Saints Row video game here lately. Places have been getting some hands-on, some hands-off, I guess I should technically say, about it and everything. And they've been putting their impressions out. I'll go through a couple different sites. Here's one from Eurogamer.net. This one's about the Saints Row developers discuss the game's reveal backlash and bringing fans back to the series. And then the sub-headline, it is a little bit frustrating to see when you know what you're making, which I think is kind of one of the bigger takeaways. They talk about, here's a quote from Kenzie Lindgren, who's an associate UX director or designer. It definitely still feels like Saints Row, which, okay, if you got to say that, that kind of means that no, it doesn't look like it. It doesn't, if you got to tell people, hey guys, no, it still feels like Saints Row. But anyway, it's not a good thing in my opinion. Anyway, so even if it's not the same characters, even if it's not the same setting, even if it's not exactly the same as before, it feels like Saints Row. And they talk about the customization. They talk about how that's head and shoulders above, other games, not just those within the Saints Row series, just in general. And it looks to be one of the most extensive examples of its kind. Everything can be altered from outfits, cars, and weapons to the scars and birthmarks on your character's body. So in other words, it definitely went overboard, quote unquote. But I mean that in a good way. And she says we definitely have a lot more customization than any other game on the market right now. But also just the fact that in the game we might give you the same tools and we might give you the same ways to traverse and to move around. You might be completing the same missions and getting the same rewards as other players, but no two players are necessarily going to have the same experience. To a point. We've heard that kind of lofty speak before. But anyway, with the level of customization, the level of options and tools we give you, two different players are going into the game completely differently. I think that's something that's really cool about Saints Row in particular. Again, that's more kind of PR speak or whatever. I did have to mention that the boss is always being referred to as they, them, or you, because they keep the pronouns gender neutral. This is something the developers say is purely for technical reasons and not done to suggest the boss is non-binary. Which I guess is an important distinction to make, because I can see people trying to jump on that. But the thing is, as is explained right here, trying to put all that together with 8 different voices and then multiple different options in there. Basically having the voices, because you can have a female boss, you can make a male boss, or whatever. You can make all kinds of, crazy, bosses, basically. So it just makes sense. They've always done that. Okay. This brought us to Saints Row initial reveal last year, which was met with a lukewarm response, and the game subsequent display. And that's where you see it's a little bit frustrating to see, yada, 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 and they go on, they talk. The Saints are not coming back. That can be very nerve-wracking. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing. And honestly, the entire time I've been here, we've always been confident in this direction. I've always been confident in this, and I personally have loved what we've made. So yeah, it can be frustrating, but I'm also pretty confident still. The thing, and then they talk some about the accessibility and stuff. That's cool, And I'll just move on to PushSquare. New Saints Row looks like fantastic fun, but it's also distinctly last gen, which isn't a good thing because it's released on PS4 and the Xbox One, which honestly is disappointing because it's like at this point, man, come on. I understand though why they would do that because you want to sell the the game to as many potential people as possible. So I get it. I completely understand. It's just disappointing because it means that it's not going to be a true. They always call it next gen, but it's like current gen because the PS5 and the Xbox One or the Xbox Series, those are the current gen. They've been out a while. But anyway, whatever. They go on, they talk. It's looked better and better each time it's been shown. Recently, we got to see a whole chunk of the sandbox title in action. It's still unapologetically Saints Row. By that we mean Saints Row the Third. Right now, the ridiculous character customization and mental side activities. And they talk about, now look, we didn't expect, because they say it comes off a bit dated. Now look, we didn't expect Saints Row to raise the bar on a technical or graphical or even gameplay level, but based on what we've seen, it's not that far removed from its immediate predecessors. And they were originally PS3 releases. And its character animations and the ways in which you interact with the quirky sandbox is very familiar, and a noticeable lack of evolution might be enough to put some players off. Me personally, I'm not a big graphics guy. I appreciate them, I like them and stuff, but I'm not huge. To me, it's more about the gameplay, so this doesn't bother me quite as much. I can see other people absolutely being turned off by it though, because they just say, well, why don't I just go back and play Saints Row the Third or whatever, On a fundamental level, it's still a third-person shooter with what seems to be an impressive range of guns on offer, and there are multiple ways to approach a fight. We saw a bunch of different way takedowns. Although, if it's anything like the other Saints Row games, eventually that combat becomes almost secondary to just, I'm just wiping everything out. But anyway, we'll see. comically ragdoll enemies. I've always appreciated the ragdoll physics of like the various games, at various side activities or whatever. You know, there's only one aspect of the new Saints Row that we're not sold on. That's mostly because we haven't seen enough of it. We are, of course, talking about the story. We did get a brief look at an unedited cutscene during our preview, but it didn't reveal a whole lot about the main characters or the game's cutscene direction. As was the case in the past games, the boss seems suitably chatty, cracking jokes and daft one-liners on a frequent basis, but that's about all we got from this particular preview. And then they go on and talk some more. Wrap it up. VideoGamesChronicles.com, even with dull characters, the new Saints Row nails its chaotic gameplay. And they talk some about, if you chart the history, it started off as a fairly generic open world game, blah, 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 that stuff. That's why the latest game, the first since 2013, is a full reboot in which the Saints aren't quite as you remember them. They recently got to watch a gameplay demonstration. At the start of the game, when the Saints gang isn't even formed, the character will be taking on odd jobs, all that kind of stuff. In the old games, it's pretty much anything goes. Yes, there was a sense that your crew were the good guys, but ultimately the fun came from being a horrible person that could chase an innocent civilian down the street with a frying pan and not think twice about it. In the robbery cutscene, the Saints allow a civilian to leave, saying that they don't rob the innocent. If this was Saints Row 3, you'd have cracked a dildo bat over their head and made it rain with the money you just grabbed off of them. To be clear, the developers are probably right to make this change, but it's emblematic of a game that just happens to be named Saints Row, but doesn't seem to quite justify it from a story perspective, based on what we've seen. Unfortunately, every single character in our demo was written to be the funny one, meaning that conversations are a feedback loop of quips that make it impossible to discern who's being serious and how one is supposed to react. After bursting from the payday loan shop, well, that's not capitalized, but whatever. You're pursued by the police, and it's here that the new vehicle combat is shown off. Driving looks fantastic. It goes on, I think the graphics are good. I mean, it's all relative. Like I said, I'm not a big graphics guy. I'm more about the gameplay. So you would think that I would be really excited for this game, but it's like I don't know. It's like the characters, just the fucking dorks that you're hanging out with. I don't know. And they talk about firstly, despite the fact that the game is absolutely stuffed with customization options for your car, depending on when you unlock the wingsuit, you're essentially going to be able to fly. So why would you ever drive? See, that's one of the problems. The older Saints Row games struggled with this, especially in 3 and 4. More so 4. Like I still drove a lot in 3. I mean, shit, what the hell? I mean, But like in 4, when you got your superpowers and stuff, it was just doing that all the time. I never got in a car after that, unless it was just to get it out of the way or something. Although I usually just blew it up at that point. So and they talk about we hope it's a mid-late game unlock. Otherwise, the cool cars and refined driving controls will be ignored. Yeah, it absolutely should be. I mean, at the same time, I understand why some people would be like, well, God damn it, they put that in there. We should be able to enjoy it and stuff. So I get that, but at the same time, I do agree that it should be a later unlock. Or otherwise, it's like all that, the car stuff is gone. Who cares? Anyway, a lot of our concerns were soon assuaged when the demo introduced what's currently the front runner for the mechanic of the year. You can eject out of your car, glide away in your wingsuit, and in order to regain altitude, you bounce on random pedestrian's head. So yeah, okay. They talk about some of the emotes and all this stuff. I've already gone almost 8.5 minutes, so I'm probably just going to wrap this up here. Basically, to sum up, they say Saints Row feels like it captures the anarch fun of the original franchise while leaving behind some of the crude humor that was more at home in the late 2000s. I completely disagree with that, with them doing that. I mean, that's fucking stupid. I would expect no less from a fucking place like VideoGamesChronicle. Oh, current year, we can't have the crude humor. No, fuck that. They should have even more crude humor in there. But then, of course, they also just say, leaving behind some of the crude humor. But while the dialogue doesn't sparkle and the characters don't feel as memorable as the original crew, the gameplay seemed to nail why people were into the Saints Row games originally. Which, okay, like I said, I'm into the gameplay, so I'm like, okay, it sounds pretty cool. But the fact that the crude humor, they left behind some of it, as it says, the characters don't feel as memorable. It's like, fuck, why don't I just go play the old ones? I don't know. I mean, yeah. We'll see. But anyway, I'll go ahead and wrap it up here. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good one.